This is the second video in a series that shows how to make D3 installation on Linux easier by bypassing D3 Setup's configuration menu. In this video, we'll cover the pick0 file disk statement in particular. Later, we'll cover how to set up disk partitions for D3 and how to manually load D3 dependencies. D3 can reside within raw partitions or logical volumes using fdisk, parthead, lvcreate, or other Linux commands. First, we'll look at raw partitions defined with the fdisk command. You can have more than one disk statement in your pick0 file. In D3 versions 10 and later, you can have up to 64 disk statements, fewer in older versions. This gives you the ability, as D3 grows, to add disk to the VME without the need for a D3 file load. The partitions are used in the order they are listed in pick0. The optional #disk number comment at the end is there for clarity. Let's review the example of a pick0 file disk statement. The first parameter, /dev/sda3 in this example, is the partition you're going to use for D3. This is the raw partition you set up using fdisk. The second parameter, 0 in this example, is the partition block where you want to start D3's use of that partition. 0 is always the starting block of the partition, and you would almost always start D3 there. An exception would be if you have one partition that is being used and shared by two VMEs, in which case the second VME would start after the ending block of the first VME. For the rest of this topic, we will assume one VME using all of the partition. The third parameter, 41942000 in this example, is the number of 1 kilobyte partition blocks to allocate to the VME. This number should be evenly divisible by 8 and must be equal to or less than the actual number of 1K blocks in the partition. This can get tricky as sometimes the utilities list the number of 512-byte sectors instead of 1024-byte blocks. Here's one example of a disk that has been split into 4 partitions that consume all of the disk. Notice that /dev/sda is a 155 gigabyte in size with just over 3 million blocks, and that the sector size is 512 bytes. Now let's look at one of the partitions. Notice that the /dev/sda1 starts at block 2048 and ends at 1026047. That's 1025000 blocks, but the number of blocks listed is 512000. This is because the numbers in the blocks column are expressed in 1K block sizes, not 512-byte sectors. This is good because you don't need to do any math to come up with the correct number for your pick0 disk statement. Just use the one that's listed or one that's a little smaller to make sure it's evenly divisible by 8. The example shown is from a CentOS 7.9 system. Things have changed. Here's an example from a Rocky Linux 8.5 system. Notice that the blocks column is now sectors with an added size column. On /dev/sda3, you see it's a 4 gigabyte partition with 8388608 sectors. In order to create your pick0 disk statement using /dev/sda3, you need to divide 8388608 by 2 to get the number 4194304 to use for your disk statement, number of blocks parameter. And yes, 4194304 is evenly divisible by 8. In the next video, we'll cover raw disk partition creation using the Linux fdisk utility. If you have any questions about any of the content we've covered so far, please contact Rocket D3 support.